there are some very interesting national and international trends. If you came in today with the radio on, you found out that oil has now surged again to a price of $109 a barrel. But because of the news of the new liquidity surge that the central banks, including the United States, are going to put into the economy, the stock market took off today. What will likely happen tomorrow is it'll get hammered because the oil prices will finally hit the market and outweigh what's going on with the liquidity issue. But so we're in a very volatile and from my viewpoint, interesting time, because as an economist, and especially one that's in an academic institution and not in a consultancy or does not work for an investment bank, I get to kind of, pontificate as to what's going to happen and sit in sort of this sterile bubble of being able to push theory out and say, okay, well, we knew this was going to happen and here's why, and then we kind of know where we're headed because of that. Really, the national and international trends are going to, at some point, trickle their way down to the county level. How hard and how fast that's going to hit Marin is a question I'll talk about at the very end of this discussion. But consider that when you're hearing these things in the news, as far away as China sounds, they're very, very close to us economically as far as how it impacts our day-to-day business. And finally, I'm going to talk about, as I was asked to by Alyssa today, to talk about the changing economic environment in Marin County in specific, but also in the North Bay. The two main things I'm going to talk about are going to be, first, what's going to happen to real estate market, since everybody here is in realty, I'm guessing, or connected to it somehow. And the second thing is the demographic changes that are likely to happen both in businesses and in the population, and how that's going to affect not only real estate, but also the general economic environment. So here's the employment graph, and you'll notice that Marin has a classic cyclic movement since 1990 in unemployment. You'll notice that the recession of the early 90s played itself out, and Marin peaked at about 5.6% unemployment, and then it slid for the largest part of the 90s downward, even though there were some spikes. Most of those spikes are seasonal spikes. And for some reason, the spike in Marin County is actually following, the unemployment spike is actually counter-cyclical what happens, for example, in Sonoma County, in that it generally spikes in June and then falls in December, which is classic in retail, but in Sonoma County, that trend generally reverses itself a little bit, where there's a spike during the harvest season in the wine industry, and then it doesn't have as large a spike in the Christmas season. But anyway, the key is the trend. If you can think of your trigonometry class from high school, this is basically following a sine wave movement. It rises with some amplitude, falls with some amplitude, rises again, and it's an issue really of frequency. How often do those hills take place in that graph? If you notice at the very end point of that graph, which is the latest statistics through January of this year, we're starting to see some seemingly trend increase in Marin County, and the current statistics out of EDD are that Marin County has gone up about 0.5% unemployment in the last 6 months, if you take the seasonality out of it. So there's definitely some movement in Marin downward. Now, how long and how deep it will be is another question, and I'll tackle that at some point here today.